What if what if the worst crimes against humanity don't start with a weapon or, a bad policy, but with a silent private thought?
Yeah, like a single belief sitting right at your core.
Exactly. One that eventually dictates every single action that follows.
That is the exact premise of the text we're analyzing today.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a single, really fascinating source today. It's the text of Psalm 14 from the English Standard Version of the Bible.
Right, an ancient poem attributed to David.
Yeah, directed to the choir master. And I mean, whether you view this as sacred scripture or just like brilliant ancient sociology, we're exploring it purely as historical and religious literature today.
Absolutely, keeping it neutral, because the argument it makes about human nature is incredibly intense.
It really is. So let's unpack this. The text opens with a claim about human nature and then immediately zooms out.
Right, it sets up this stark cause and effect relationship right out of the gate. The text opens with the famous line, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God."
Okay. But it immediately links that internal private stance to external corruption and, quote, abominable deeds.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how the text connects internal belief to external action. Like, the fool isn't just making a philosophical statement.
Wait, hold on. That is a massive escalation, isn't it? We go from a guy quietly thinking there is no God in his head to,
Suddenly committing abominable deeds.
yeah, it feels like a huge, I don't know, unearned leap. How does the poem justify that connection?
Well, it comes down to accountability. The text describes the Lord looking down from heaven on the children of man.
Okay, so kind of like an auditor.
Exactly. If you remove that higher power, if you say in your heart there is no God, you remove the ultimate ceiling of accountability. The poem argues that humanity's default setting, without that divine check in place, is to turn aside into corruption.
So looking down from heaven sounds less like a benevolent watcher and more like a cosmic auditor checking humanity's books,
Like,
checking to see if anyone understands or, as the footnote points out, if they act wisely.
and the findings of this audit are absolutely devastating.
Utterly.
The text literally says there is none who does good, not even one. That internal rejection of the divine creates a moral vacuum,
Wow.
and that vacuum fundamentally changes how you view other people.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We transition from this general moral decay to a very specific, terrifying image.
The visceral impacts on the vulnerable.
Yes. It describes evildoers who, quote, eat up my people as they eat bread. That line is haunting.
It really is.
But I want to push back a little. How does this casual consumption of the vulnerable connect to their refusal to call upon the Lord?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, if you remove the divine, human beings are no longer sacred creations.
Oh, I see. They just become resources.
Right, commodities. They become bread, a daily, thoughtless staple.
Mm.
To treat the divine as non-existent allows you to consume the vulnerable without a second thought.
Because you think no one's watching.
Precisely. You do it because you believe no one is monitoring the ledger.
Which makes the sudden pivot in the poem make perfect sense. These untouchable, powerful evildoers are suddenly described as being in great terror.
Yeah, the shock of a surprise audit. They thought they had cooked the books flawlessly in secret.
But they didn't.
No, the terror hits because the text establishes that God is with the generation of the righteous. The powerful try to shame the plans of the poor, but that entire power structure collapses.
It collapses the second the Lord is established as the ultimate refuge for the marginalized.
Exactly.
So the audit actually has teeth. The poem doesn't just leave us with systemic oppression.
No, it completely flips the script at the end. It concludes with this sudden burst of hope.
A plea for salvation to come out of Zion.
Right, and it anticipates the Lord restoring the fortunes of his people, prompting Jacob and Israel to rejoice.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Next time you look at the systems of power around you, think about this ancient poem.
It sharply contrasts the casual cruelty of those who consume others like bread with the hidden plans of the poor.
It really does. When a text equates dismissing God with systemic oppression, it forces you to ask, when the books are balanced and the fortunes are finally restored, who is actually the fool?